which the layers which surround the brain are called as cranial meninges. The layers which surround the brain are called cranial meninges. Outermost layer of the brain is dura mater. It is thick. It is double layered, and it is the inner lining of the skull. It makes the inner lining of the skull. And the middle layer is said to be arachnoid matter. The middle layer is called arachnoid matter. Space present between the dura mater and arachnoid matter is subdural space. Okay, then what is arachnoid matter? It's a thin, webby middle membrane. Then subarachnoid space is present between the arachnoid matter and pia mater. Who is pia matter? A thin innermost layer which is vascularized and who is closely adhered to the brain is pia mater. So we classified the brain into three: the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. Forebrain include prosencephalon. Forebrain is also called prosencephalon, and midbrain is said to be the mesencephalon. The hindbrain, a rhombencephalon. Hindbrain, a rhombencephalon. The forebrain, a prosencephalon, include olfactory lobe, the cerebrum, and diencephalon. Along with that, we'll have the limbic system also. And the midbrain or mesencephalon, include the cerebral peduncles and crura cerebri, and also we'll see the corpora quadrigemina. Hindbrain or rhombencephalon include cerebellum, pons varoli, and medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. It's very important for us knowing the complete map of the brain. That means if it is asked where is corpora quadrigemina, that is belongs to midbrain or mesencephalon. Like pons varoli, that is belongs to hindbrain. In that way, you should have the clarity. That is very important. Okay, so in this page, so here forebrain, we are talking about forebrain or prosencephalon. Forebrain or prosencephalon include olfactory bulb, which the first one is olfactory bulb. So simple to say, they are the bulbous structure which makes the smell, that sensory impulses they receive from the olfactory epithelium. Okay, they receive from the olfactory epithelium, and they are for the sense of smell. Let's talk about the cerebrum, the bigger portion. If you understand cerebrum and diencephalon, that means brain is over. So the most confusing things are cerebrum and diencephalon. You don't feel any the flexibility and comfort when you start reading the textbook. That's a problem actually. So that flexibility you can see in the notes. We separated items in the cerebrum. Okay, the first item, the the cerebrum, you should know that is in the form of two halves. What are they? Cerebral hemispheres. Two halves you can see. This is one half and this is another half. And the two halves are connected each other. The two cerebral hemispheres, the two halves of the cerebrum, we say cerebral hemispheres, which they got connected each other, and that in their connection, where they get connected, we'll see a longitudinal fissure. That I am showing, that longitudinal fissure. Shall we go for much zoom? So this is a longitudinal fissure. Okay, so this is a longitudinal fissure we are talking about. Next, what next? Lobes of the that brain. That means cerebrum particularly. Lobes of the cerebrum. What are they? The frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe. So by the names we understand they are named after their location, where they present. We know these are the frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone. So respected locations made them to give the respected name, like frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. So this is the story of lobes of the brain. And what next? The folds and the grooves and the deeper grooves that we have to talk about. The folds you can see here, the gyri, the various other names are also there for the gyri, like precentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus, no matter for us. That we don't want that, all of them. Just we need to know the folds of the cerebral hemisphere are called gyri. In between them, whatever the particular grooves are present, they are called sulci. And deeper grooves are called fissure. One of the example we have longitudinal fissure is there. So folds gyri the grooves, sulci, and the deeper grooves we call longitudinal fissure, that item. So that means when you start revising the brain, you see the label like this in every page. In the given notes, you see the label talking about longitudinal fissure. You should that should come in mind. What is longitudinal fissure? When the two cerebral hemispheres are connected each other, there you'll find a deeper groove. The deeper groove is called that longitudinal fissure. Okay. Next, lobes. What about lobes? Yeah, cerebral hemisphere. Each cerebral hemisphere is having frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital lobes. Next, gyri. The folds on the cerebral hemisphere. Gyri. Grooves are called sulci. Deeper grooves are called fissure. That you should understand. Okay, so that was given in the form of theory. Here, that particular lines, these lines, whatever you are seeing on the screen, are exclusive NCR, that are state text lines. Text lines. I didn't change a single line there. As usual, whatever the text lines are, only order is changed. The text order is changed, but total text sentences. That's why reading this or reading textbook doesn't make any difference. Okay, so longitudinal fissure. Talking about the cerebrum, longitudinally divides into two cerebral hemispheres by a longitudinal commissure. And they're talking about the lobes of the cerebrum. Cerebrum is divided into the frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital lobe. The lobes of the cerebrum, each cerebral hemisphere is having like so. Surface of the cerebral hemisphere is called cortex. So talking about the cortex, on above the cortex only, the folds are present. We call gyri, and the fissures are present. The fissure, what is fissure? The deepest groove is called fissure. Shallow groove is called sulci. So that the story will end, and we have seen, we read. Okay, now the second part of the area. So in this particular place, we are going to learn the three issues: corpus callosum, cerebral cortex, sensory and motor area. So they're talking about the corpus callosum, as we said already. The two cerebral hemispheres are connected each other. As I said, the two cerebral hemispheres, the two halves of the cerebrum is connected each other. So what is this corpus callosum? It's just a favicol. That means connecting the two cerebral hemisphere. Very, very regular and famous question. The connection between the two cerebral hemisphere. Answer should not be favicol. That corpus callosum. That favicol, what I mean, for attachment I am using. Then what this corpus callosum is made of? It is made of a flat bundle of myelinated fiber. Fiber nothing but axon. Just imagine that many axons are connecting two cerebral hemisphere. The connection between the two cerebral hemisphere, which is present beneath the cortex, and transverse wide flat bundle of myelinated fibers it is. And what is the function? It brings the coordination between the right and left side. Then that means if I am thinking logically, that means that left brain to the right brain. Logical thinking is possible with the left brain. That to the right brain, that information will come to. Then memory, right brain, likewise, whatever, these people will coordinate each other. What do you say? But in general, we used to say one of the above, among the two cerebral hemisphere, one is going dominate. In general, we used to say that we are not going to the inner issues, that we are not a neurologist, we are just learning intermediate. That way, that in right-handed people, the left cerebral hemisphere is active in general. The left-handed people, right cerebral hemisphere, they used to say like that. A primary information. Most more exceptions are there. Then cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex. Talking about the cerebral cortex, uppermost portion of the cerebrum, we say. Then what makes it cortex? Gray matter. That means myelinated axons can be present there. Neuronal cell bodies are more concentrated. Cytons are concentrated. Okay, the functional areas of the cerebral cortex are called three: sensory, motor, and association area. Sensory area, that so simple to know, they receive and interpret the sensory impulses from the sense organs. Motor area, which control the voluntary muscular movements. Then association area, it's not either clearly sensory or motor. It deals with that associating the total, that sensory and motor. associating that. That means three basic centers we are talking about in cerebral cortex. And being the more surface area on the cerebral hemisphere, the function that everything is here itself. Whatever you are feeling, you, me, my friends, my relatives, myself, I like this, I don't like this, all the issues are dumped here itself, cerebral hemisphere. That perception of thinking, reasoning, analysis, intelligence, if present, all are belongs to here only in cerebral hemispheres. Okay. So then let's talk about the more areas of the cerebrum. That cerebrum, we discussed about the cerebrum, that total areas we discussed about the cerebrum. One is the lobes of the cerebrum, and we said cerebrum itself having two halves, cerebral hemisphere, lobes of the cerebrum we discussed, and gyri, sulci, and longitudinal fissure. Then after the uppermost portion of the cerebrum, we said cortex. The connection between the two cerebral hemispheres are called corpus callosum. Then after that areas, three types of areas can be seen: sensory, motor, and association area. And we concluded cerebral hemisphere finally with their function. That what I said, thinking, reasoning, analysis, intelligence, all these are issues are related to the cerebral hemisphere. Conscious part of the brain, if I am lifting my hand like this, if I am talking, that all these because of cerebral hemisphere. Okay. Then let's continue. Continue what it means, where we are. That is very important. That for that I have to come back. Actually, no need to come back. Yeah, that I said for so many times. But let us see. So we have completed this part, cerebrum. Now we are moving towards diencephalon. As I said to you, cerebrum and diencephalon are complicated portions in the text point of view, in the student point of view. So I am much careful here when explaining this particular area, because when you cross this, that's over. That's all. Okay, so that brains. Okay, let's see brainstem afterward. That first of all, let's go to the diencephalon, the third part of the forebrain. That I do remember you once again. The forebrain or prosencephalon include three: olfactory bulb, cerebral hemispheres, and diencephalon. And diencephalon are also called thalamencephalon. Okay, so we are going to divide the diencephalon into three: epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. There are three portions. What are they? Epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Okay, let's try to locate them first of all. Epithalamus, in general terms, roof of diencephalon is called epithalamus. That means dorsal surface is said to be epithalamus. Then you can't see in this angle. This is hypothalamus, and this is thalamus. Okay, see what you can see here, thalamus and hypothalamus. Let me say about epithalamus. Roof of diencephalon, it is non-nervous part which is fused with the pia mater to form anterior choroid plexus. If you remember, I said this to you, anterior choroid plexus. That non-nervous part which is fused with the pia mater. That means that is a blood vascular portion, vascularized portion. The roof of diencephalon or the diaphyseal associated with the overlying pia mater for this bunch of capillary network. And then another thing to be remembered here, that is anterior choroid plexus is over. Then another thing to be remembered over, the pineal stalk or pineal body. To remember this for the coming days, chemical control and coordination. It's a harm of the gland actually. Pineal body, we use it to say, which is going to secrete a hormone called melatonin. At present, no matter. That we'll discuss in the next chapter, chemical control and coordination. The epithelium of the epithalamus form a pineal stalk, which ends in a rounded structure called pineal stalk. Okay, then the more we need to discuss about the thalamus and hypothalamus here, that both are visible in the diagram clearly. First of all, you see this, they are given the address superior to the midbrain. Okay, let us check whether it is superior to the midbrain or not. Yeah, superior to the midbrain. This is midbrain and this is superior to the midbrain. Okay, if you want to locate, you can locate the epithalamus also here. The PB, what is PB? PB means pineal body. So with that, we can locate the epithalamus also. Little bit you are looking for. You may not get that anterior choroid plexus in this view diagram. But you can see in this view, the thalamus is so clear. Above the midbrain, the said I shown to you. Above the midbrain. Okay, what next? That epithalamus superior to the midbrain. Function they are given. Major coordinating center. For sensory and motor signaling, the major coordinating center. Most times functions play a great questions as in the form of math the following. Let us see a bigger area here. Where bigger area in the form of examination in the form of functions. Talking about hypothalamus. Let us try to locate here first of all. HT is one. That HT, that means hypothalamus. Okay, let me show you. Is the area. This is the area. Hypothalamus. Okay. So this is hypothalamus. So this hypothalamus, where it is location, lies at the base of thalamus. Yeah, lies at the base of thalamus. Below the thalamus, it is present. Forms a funnel shape. Let's read the statement and let's try to visualize. Formed a funnel-shaped extension called infundibulum. I made labeling here. I means infundibulum. Stalk we say. Which pituitary gland is going to connect. PG nothing but pituitary gland. That means the pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus with the help of infundibulum. If you mean to understand like that. Pituitary gland connected to the hypothalamus with the help of infundibulum. More details we'll get in next chapter about the pituitary gland. Infundibulum connect hypothalamus with pituitary gland. Then what are the functions? So many functions are there. Hypothalamus controls and integrates the activity of autonomous nervous system. Then hypothalamus is a satiety center. Hypothalamus is a feeding center. Hypothalamus is thermoregulatory, osmoregulatory, thirsty center. That all these functions are going to be that little bit interesting. Let us see here. What is the hypothalamus? We said satiety center. What is satiety center? Satisfactory center. That means when you feel hunger, what we do? It's a feeding center, I said. That means feeling of hunger is also our hypothalamus is responsible for that. Then when you feel hunger, that what you'll do, you start eating, isn't it? You start eating. So when we start eating, when we are eating continuously, one word will come from us. Okay, it's enough. Okay, that means you are satisfied. That is satiety center. Okay, so what is the magical thing here? Yeah, there is a magical thing. You just think about this. That generally, when we feel so hunger, that the use hunger conditions, what we do, we start eating much faster, much faster. Okay. If I stop you, if you want to eat, if you are ready to eat for 1 kg, you are prepared to eat, you started and made everything on the table, 1 kg chicken biryani is ready in front of the table. Okay. So if I pull in the middle of the before you eat the total by half kg, just for example sake, all the examples are not at all aiming any a single person. If you don't feel yourself, I mean, how this person came to know I am eating 1 kg. Likewise, this kind of thing. Just example sake we are talking about. Okay. Then while eating half kg itself, if I remove that table, if I remove the plate from the table, what happens? You feel dissatisfaction, isn't it? That means that is all because of hypothalamus. But what I say, if you stop for 10 to 15 minutes, that you feel so, I am half stomach, my stomach is not filled, when you feel so. Have you observed any time that after 10-15 minutes you feel your stomach is filled? What it mean? What is the story behind this particular screen? So what it mean? Actually, when you started eating, that particular sensors, receptors, stretch receptors of the stomach will take the information of filling up stomach, and they have to inform to the brain that when they inform to the brain, that hypothalamus will give a feeling of fullness to you, isn't it? That means it will take just 5 to 10 minutes of time. According to the scientists, it will take 5 to 10 minutes of time. Okay, that 5 to 10 minutes of time is enough for us to eat the remaining half kg. That's what I am talking about. I got my meaning here. Your stomach will be filled by eating half kg itself. Okay, but till the information reaches to the hypothalamus when before hypothalamus creating the feeling of fullness. Full is already full it is. That before it creating the feeling of fullness, we eat one more half kg. That's the reason the horizontal growth of the human being. Okay, so that means we are talking about why because people become fat here. They have to wait. They have to wait. That's why our elders are used to say to fill the stomach half. What is the fill the stomach half? To fill the stomach half, that means you feel so it is filled half, but it is filled full. Wait for a 5 to 10 minutes. That the hypothalamus will give fullness of the feeling. That is the satiety center. What is the interesting thing in case of feeding center? Okay, the same itself, feeding center. Okay, that means it create hunger. It makes you to say it's over. Okay, so what is thirsty center? Thirsty center. So we feel so that in the neck region, the particular the inside, I feel so dry. I feel so dry because I'm not drinking water. That's why the area became dry, or I feel so the area become dry. There is a difference. You just see the statements here. So this area become dried for me from last 4 5 hours. I'm not drinking water. That's why it became dry. You feel so, isn't it? That became dry, you're feeling it is dry. That these two things are different. It won't, how it become dry? Hypothalamus created the situation. The hypothalamus will send information to this area in the alimentary canal, in the pharyngeal region. The glandular cells are stopped secreting mucus. That's why you feel dry. You feel dry. So when I drink water, it became wet. That's why I'm feeling good. No, it's not like that. When you drink water, that hypothalamus again stimulate the glandular cell to secrete the mucus. Your feeling of dryness will go off. That's the magic in the body. Okay, so many magics are coming in MBBS first year when you go. You learn like this. Okay, but you should enjoy actually while learning. Okay, these are all the things are happening in my body. You should enjoy human physiology. If you start enjoying human physiology, it becomes so easy. Okay, learning about ourselves. So if you feel like so while learning, what is this nonsense? Cerebrum, diencephalon, in the diencephalon, epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. What is this nonsense? When you feel like so, you are thinking you are nonsense because all these are present inside you, isn't it? So don't say human physiology while reading. Don't say like that. What is all this nonsense? You are talking about you. You are nonsense. That it means, isn't it? Okay, so when I start saying olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlea, trigeminal, abduction, spatial, auditory, glossopharyngeal, vagus, spinal, accessory, hypoglossal, 12 pairs of cranial nerves. So that what is this? Oh my God! You should not say like that because you have these 12 pairs of cranial nerves which are coming from the brain. So and we have enough space in the cerebral hemispheres to learn. Only thing required is the patience. That's all. Okay, let me continue. That hypothalamus is osmoregulatory and thermoregulatory. The hypothalamus is a thirsty center, and the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus is going to secrete the hormones, releasing hormones, inhibiting hormones. We use it to say. We'll discuss more about this in chemical control and coordination. Till the time you remind, hypothalamus is a satiety center, feeding center, thermoregulatory, body temperature control, osmoregulatory, water balance in the body, thirsty center, and secrete hormones to control the pituitary gland. Okay, it secrete to control the pituitary gland. It also have their own secretions like oxytocin and vasopressin. We'll discuss in chemical control. And this is all about hypothalamus. Okay. So learning difficulty will find when you start reading in text here. I just, for our comfort, I made 3 subheadings here. Epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. Issues to be learned over in epithalamus, I made in the form of capital letter. Anterior choroid plexus, I shown in the previous class. Anterior choroid plexus. And the additional thing you need to learn is pineal stalk. Then thalamus, nothing is seen here. Location is given, superior to the midbrain. The location is shown in the diagram, superior to the midbrain. Okay. Next, what left? What left? That hypothalamus. So everything is here only. So one is the location of hypothalamus and their connection with the pituitary gland. Location that is below the thalamus, we said, and connection with the pituitary gland with the help of stalk or infundibulum. Then after the remaining all are functions: satiety center, feeding center, thermoregulatory, osmoregulatory, thirsty center, going to secrete the hormones. That various hormones they are going to secrete to control the pituitary gland. All that we will discuss in chemical control. Remaining issues of the hormonal issues of the hypothalamus we will discuss there in the next chapter. Okay. Then let me continue. What we are completed? We have completed the forebrain, which include cerebrum and diencephalon. Okay, so discuss more about these two only, isn't it? Cerebrum and diencephalon. The cerebral hemisphere and diencephalon are completed. And that means we are now moving to the midbrain. Okay, midbrain. So before we go there is a continuation that some portions of the forebrain and the midbrain are having a special structure called limbic system. That means inner portions of the cerebral hemisphere and a group of associated deep structures like amygdala, hippocampus, they are going to form the limbic system. Okay, so limbic system, can we see the limbic system in the diagram? Whatever you are seeing, that is limbic system actually. The whole diagram is limbic system we are talking about. Cingulate gyrings, fornix primitiva, we don't have all this in syllabus. Whatever you are observing here, this area, the remaining area is shaded out, and the highlighted area is the limbic system in general. We say inner parts of the cerebral hemisphere and a group of associated deep structures like amygdala, hippocampus, amygdala, this is amygdala, and this is the hippocampal lobe, that amygdala, hippocampus, then hypothalamus. According to NCERT, hypothalamus is also a part of limbic system. But our state is given little difference like this. Limbic system along with the hypothalamus, they said. But NCERT says hypothalamus is also a part of limbic system. No matter, we'll discuss. Okay, so this is the hypothalamus, and this is the amygdala, this is the hippocampus, and some parts of the cerebral hemisphere, like the cingulate gyrates, fornix, all these things. All these are going to form a special system. What is it? Limbic system. What is the function of limbic system? It regulates the sexual behavior and expression of emotional reactions. It regulates the sexual behavior and expression of emotional reactions. That means you came to understand all TV serials are based on limbic system only. That emotional reactions, you can see the Zoom reactions of all serial actors. That because of limbic system only. Okay, then let's continue with the midbrain. Mesencephalon. Midbrain or mesencephalon. So did you remember what are there in midbrain or mesencephalon? Optic lobes and crura cerebri. Let's talk one after another. Okay, that optic lobes. That what are optic lobes? Corpora quadrigemina. The technical term to be learned over, that is corpora quadrigemina. This is another part of the angle of the brain which is showing. Okay, so to understand the location, this is the last part of the brain. This is medulla oblongata. Okay, the medulla oblongata. There you can see the 4 optic lobes are present here. 4 optic lobes. We say corpora quadrigemina. Corpora quadrigemina. Okay, so let me show you in another diagram that is so clear there. Where it is, the 4 optic lobes are, you can see clearly here in this diagram. Superior caliculi and inferior caliculi. Superior caliculi and inferior caliculi, collectively called as, here it is. See this. Corpora quadrigemina. If you see the brain of the frog, there you'll see only 2 optic lobes. They are called corpora bigemina. Corpora bigemina. Let's do only this area. Let me show you this area only. Yeah, these two. What we're talking about. Superior caliculi and inferior caliculi. That superior caliculi, have you seen the pineal gland here? That pineal gland. Do you remember? Pineal gland is a part of epithalamus. Okay, so below that you'll see these two things. Superior caliculi and inferior caliculi. What do you say it as? Corpora quadrigemina. Superior caliculi is believed to be for the sense of vision and inferior caliculi for sense of hearing. What is another thing to be remembered here? That crura cerebri. Crura cerebri. What is crura cerebri? You see some bands of fibers are moving here, this area. Some bands of fibers. Okay, this is crura cerebri. What is it exactly? It is exactly what do you say? Connection between the forebrain to the hindbrain, which is located on the midbrain. Connection to the forebrain to the midbrain, located on the forebrain to the hindbrain, who is located on the midbrain. That's what we have to say. Okay, so located between the thalamus and hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons varoli of the hindbrain. Midbrain location we are talking, located between hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons varoli of the hindbrain. That's why we called it as midbrain. So first of all, I just explain about the corpora quadrigemina. It's over. Now talking about the crura cerebri. Crura cerebri or cerebral peduncles we say. What is it? It is a pair of longitudinal band of nervous tissue. Longitudinal band of nervous tissue. Okay, what it will do? What it will do? It connects the forebrain to the hindbrain. Text sentences I am saying. When it comes deeper, you can understand. It connects the cerebral hemisphere to the particular cerebellum. Hindbrain is having cerebellum. Cerebral hemisphere to the cerebellum. So it is a connection actually. Crura cerebri connects the cerebral hemisphere with the cerebellum and pons varoli. That means connecting the forebrain to the hindbrain located on the midbrain. That means it's forebrain, this is hindbrain. So in between who is present? Midbrain. There is a connection is going. From where it will go? Above on the midbrain. In that way, you should remember. Connections we are seeing till the time 2. One is corpus callosum, connection between the two cerebral hemisphere. Now we are looking for one more. Connection between the forebrain to the hindbrain. There is a crura cerebri, which is located on the midbrain. Now, need to go with the hindbrain. The hindbrain, what do you say? Said that cerebellum, pons varoli, and medulla oblongata. What are present here? Cerebellum, pons varoli, and medulla oblongata. Hindbrain or rhombencephalon, we use it to say. Hindbrain or rhombencephalon. That there are three portions here: cerebellum, pons varoli, medulla oblongata. That don't be confused with the cerebrum. Earlier in the forebrain, the bigger portion is cerebrum. That is the bigger part of the brain. This is little brain. The cerebellum, used to say as little brain. Location akade. Cerebellum, the little brain, second largest part of the brain. It consists of two cerebellar hemisphere. Don't be confused with the two cerebral hemisphere there. These two are cerebellar hemisphere and one central vermis. Each cerebellar hemisphere consists of three lobes: anterior, posterior, flaccular. Let me show that place. So what we said, median lobe is called vermis. Median lobe is said to be vermis. You see, this is the median lobe, vermis. And what is this? And that cerebellar hemisphere. And this is one more cerebellar hemisphere. What we say, one hemisphere, each cerebellar hemisphere is having anterior lobe, posterior lobe, and flaccular lobe. Three lobes: anterior, posterior, flaccular. If you remember, cerebrum is also having the two halves, cerebral hemisphere, and what? The frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital lobes they are. In case of cerebral hemisphere. Now this is little brain, cerebellum. It is having anterior lobe and posterior lobe, flaccular lobe. Median lobe of the cerebellum is called vermis. And we said the two cerebral hemispheres are connected each other by corpus callosum, isn't it? And now two cerebellar hemispheres are connected by pons varoli. Okay, so pons varoli. What is pons varoli? Pons varoli is the connection between the two cerebellar hemispheres. So let me show you about the pons varoli. What is it? It is relays that it consists of nerve fiber which form a bridge between the two cerebellar hemisphere. This is another connection. I'll remind you once again the connection. The connection between the two cerebral hemisphere is called corpus callosum. Then the connection of the forebrain to the hindbrain is called crura cerebri. The connection between the two cerebellar hemispheres is called pons varoli. More functions we'll see later. Then let me complete this area. It itself in the cerebellum, we have another structure, arbor vitae. At least arbor vitae is not there in NCRT. A branching tree-like core of white matter is called arbor vitae, which the meaning itself tree of life. It is surrounded by a sheath of gray matter called cerebellar cortex. What is this exactly? White matter ramifies on the gray matter. That's it. This is arbor vitae. Tree-like white matter ramifies over the gray matter. Okay, that means gray matter means unmyelinated axon, cell bodies are present and dendrites are present. That makes a gray color. On above the gray color, myelinated axons are present. How they are present? They are like tree that you can see white color. The white matter ramifies. Ramifies means branching. White matter ramifies above on the gray matter. So what do you say it as? Arbor vitae, the tree of life. White matter above the gray matter. You just remember like that. A branching tree like core of white matter is called arbor vitae, surrounded by a sheath of gray matter called cerebellar cortex. So what is the function of cerebellum? It's responsible for the control and coordination of the body. That let's take an example to understand much better. That means, for example, a drunken person, can he walk properly? No. That why he is not walking, he is not able to walk properly. That alcohol shown much effect on the cerebellum. Actually, on cerebrum also, in cerebral hemispheres also, it was shown much effect. That's why that unnecessary talking, all these things will go on. Now, balancing of the body is possible by cerebellum. That also get affected. That's why he is not able to walk properly. Some people even fell down, going to fall down on road. Why? Because that the cerebellum is responsible for the control and coordination. The alcohol shown much effect on the cerebellum. That's it is called gyroscope of the body. Cerebellum is called gyroscope of the body because it maintains the equilibrium of the body. That even, okay, why drunken people? Let's take our example at the early morning when you walk, when you immediately from the sleep, when you wake up and walking towards the washroom. That can you walk properly? No. Why? Because a little bit adjustment. Cerebellum is not yet activated. No, sir, I'll walk properly. Very good. Claps to you. That your cerebellum is activated. That's what I'm saying here. You need to understand in that particular manner. That means why you lose balance and why you control immediately. That means why you're losing balance means cerebellum is not activated. Then how are you able to control? Yeah, control is possible because of that particular cerebellum came up and wake up. Okay, so that is another interesting thing here. When we are sleeping, each and every part of the brain won't sleep at a time. They have individual sleep timers. And when you wake up, each and every part of the brain stepwise, they're going to wake up. That is actually will come into the psychology. That means a subject related to the issues of, we are just learning. We are at very doorsteps of the nervous system. Okay. Then let's continue here. The damage to the cerebellum often results in ataxia, uncoordinated voluntary muscular movements. Damage if it occurs. A temporary damage due to the alcohol, it may happen the same, but the perfect permanent damage if it all occurs, uncoordinated voluntary muscular movements. Can't walk properly, can't balance the body properly. So let me talk about, let me close this with pons varoli and medulla oblongata. As we already said, it consists of nerve fiber which form a bridge between two cerebellar hemispheres. If you remember, we discussed this in respiratory system even because it is the relay station between the cerebellum, that spinal cord and parts of the brain. And we discussed this area. Pons has a pneumotoxic center. That means in that way it is going to control the respiration also. It is involved in the control of respiratory muscles. We said it will inform to the respiratory rhythm center. It regulates the amount of air a person can take in each time by by influencing respiratory rhythm center. We discussed that in respiratory system actually. Okay, let me close. It lies in front of the cerebellum, below the midbrain, and above the medulla oblongata. Transorally location they are saying, and it consists of nerve fiber which form a bridge. Actually, this is the diagram. Pneumataxic center, which is associated with respiratory rhythm center. Respiratory rhythm center is there in medulla oblongata. The same diagram you have in our textbook in respiratory system, breathing and exchange of gases. Okay, so then this is about the pons varoli, and finally medulla oblongata. Finally, medulla oblongata. It's a posterior most part of the brain, extends from the pons varoli above and continues with the spinal cord below. That means location it is. Extends from the pons varoli above and below that is continuing with the spinal cord. It contain everything. That means we said brain will sleep. We are sleeping means what is we are sleeping? If medulla oblongata is also sleep, that you can't say that is sleep. That is called death. That means the medulla oblongata, even when we are sleeping, can we say like that our heartbeat will go on, our breath rate will go on? Isn't it, Anna? So that all done by medulla oblongata. It won't sleep actually. It will sleep only for life, once in a life. That is the end of life. So that's why in that angle you have to see the functions. It contains cardiovascular and respiratory centers. It contains centers for swallowing, vomiting, coughing, sneezing, hiccuping. Nothing is in our hands, isn't it? The swallowing of the food. You may chew, but after a limit, when it crossed over, it will swallow itself, isn't it? Vomiting. Okay, so I'm not saying those people who put their fingers and vomit. Even that also under the control of medulla oblongata. Hands is your control, cerebral hemisphere. But the remaining is in the control of medulla oblongata. Coughing, sneezing, hiccuping, all these are belongs to medulla oblongata. Okay. So then the anterior choroid plexus and posterior choroid plexus. These two we discussed actually in the previous class. Anterior choroid plexus and posterior choroid plexus. But let's take it out. Once what we said, it is a non-nervous portion. That means vascularizer, blood vascular system. Epithalamus, which is fused with the pia mater to form anterior choroid plexus. Posterior choroid plexus, you can see both here actually. The red color, vascularized, blood capillaries is that. On the roof of diencephalon, that anterior choroid plexus, on the roof of medulla oblongata, another plexus, the fourth ventricle and medulla oblongata, posterior choroid plexus. Both you can see there. Then about the ventricles, what I have said, but I'll give the conclusion. Ventricles. The cerebral hemispheres are having the two ventricles which are called 1 and 2 ventricles or lateral ventricles. I'll go a little faster because we learned this in earlier class. That 1 and 2 ventricles or lateral ventricles are paraceal. That the ventricle of the diencephalon is called that diaceal. This is the third ventricle. This is the third ventricle. Okay, so these are 1 and 2 ventricles. And the fourth ventricle is here, fourth ventricle, which is there in medulla oblongata. What do you call it as fourth ventricle or myeloceal? And the connection between the first ventricle, 1 and 2 ventricles with the third ventricle is called foramen of Monro. Very, very regular question. And the third ventricle connected to the fourth ventricle with the help of, this is the area, the fourth ventricle connection. Iter or aqueducti sylvius. Iter or aqueducti sylvius. So do remember the two, foramen of Monro and iter or aqueducti of sylvius or cerebral aqueduct. And the other thing that what we talked about, what we discussed about that flushing out. Metaceal is continuous with the central canal of the spinal cord, the ventricles of the brain, and subarachnoid space are filled with cerebrospinal fluid. That CSF is alkaline fluid, colorless, which is filtered from the choroid plexuses into the ventricles of the brain. All we discussed this area in the previous class. The CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, serves as a shock absorbing medium, and it is recycled or flushed 4 times per day in order to clear out metabolites and toxins. So this is Excuse me. This is all about the brain. We continue with the spinal cord. In the next class, we continue with the spinal cord. I request all of you to read this particular, to read this again and again, to read this again and again. That means, first of all, that step through learning, first of all, you should learn the headings and subheadings. Headings and subheadings. That means forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. In them, what are present? Process that forebrain include olfactory bulb, cerebrum, diencephalon. Midbrain, mesencephalon. It includes two cerebral peduncles, arcula cerebrae and corpora quadrigemma. Hindbrain includes cerebellum, pons varoli, medulla oblongata. Then after that, by making this particular page on the screen, you need to memorize, you try to recall that particular, for example, what are given on cerebrum. Cerebrum. So first of all, they are said there are two hemisphere, two halves, and their connection corpus callosum, and their lobes frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. Then their area, sensory, motor, and association area, that's all over. And they have gyri, sulci, and longitudinal fissure. That's all. That means you should revise in that manner. Don't read. Or read it for, I'm not saying don't read. That only reading is not at all the criteria. For all reading, come back to this page, first page. You try to say something. Diencephalon in epithalamus. What are the issues in epithalamus? Anterior choroid plexus and pineal body. Issues in the hypothalamus. So a lot of issues are there. Satiety center, thermoregulatory center, osmoregulatory center, and it also secrete hormones that neurosecretory hormones and also hormones that are going to control the pituitary gland. It has connection with the infundibulum with pituitary gland. That all should come in mind. Otherwise, that people say in this area, sir, I read so many times, I'm not getting what I'll do. These kind of questions they'll ask for. Till you get, you have to read. Need to revise continuously. If you can't cross this, how do you cross that MBBS? Just we are looking the surface level of the brain. When you deep into the brain, there are so many other parts also there. If you can't cross this, how can you dream about the medical entrance examination? Isn't it? So that's why revise it. Do revision continuously. Definitely it will come. Okay, definitely it will come to you. Okay, so this is about the brain.